We are sitting with the chairman of the Cliburn, and that's Jeff King. Jeff, you recognize this man who was on the monitor just a few seconds ago?
I did. The great Van Cliburn.
The great Van Cliburn. You know, it's interesting now, Van has not been gone that long, but his spirit permeates all these contests, I think, and I have so many memories of him. And one of the most fond that I have from toward the end of his life was that it was very hard for him to come to a competition and sit through it because he knew what was about to happen. He knew that someone was about to be crowned and that they would have enormous responsibility placed on them. And he was always thinking of other people, don't you think? What was your experience with Van?
I loved him. Everybody loved Van Cliburn. Who knew him? He was so warm. He was humble. He was so direct. You know, he would look right at you, envelop your hands with his hand. His hands were so huge.
There was the grip.
Yes,
and he did always think when Van was talking to you, it was really truly as if you were the only person in the world who was looking right at you. He was taking in everything you said.
He was listening.
Responding to. He was listening.
Responding. Exactly. Exactly.
What is it like to be the chairman of the Cliburn? Tell me what it's like. What do you think about it? I mean, it's not exactly something you do in your spare time. You have a whole other life.
You know, I do have a whole other life, but this is so. It's just. It's so rewarding. What's great about the Cliburn, though, is the staff. They're so. You know, first of all, Jacques Marquis. I have never known a CEO. Especially of a nonprofit, of an arts organization, who has the business side of the brain, you know, the budgeting, the projection, and the artistic side, all wrapped together. And he knows everybody around the world. He is that Energizer bunny that everybody keeps up with. But then he hires all these other Energizer bunnies, and they're all fabulous. And so I get told where to go, what to say, where to be.
And you just do it.
And I go there, and I be there, and I say whatever it is that I'm.
Jeff is oversimplifying just a little bit what it's like to be the chairman of the Cliburn. And you've been a good board member for quite a long time. How long have you been on the board?
I'll bet it's been 20 years.
You were treasurer first?
I was treasurer.
Okay, so that's the position we sort of groom the chairman in, right?
I don't know.
Was treasurer.
Maybe so. Maybe
you were treasurer and then ascended. There seems to be a pattern.
That pattern has happened. That's happened.
What do you think about this? What we're aiming to do here at the Junior Piano Competition and Festival, because it has a slightly different feel, of course, from just a straight competition. It's we're trying to give competitors just a taste of what that kind of pressure is like, but also to have that sort of camaraderie that they can only experience here. Do you think we're doing it? I think we're succeeding.
I think we are. In the talent level of these young folks, it's spectacular. And it's a lot of fun. You know, each of the competitions, and you're speaking specifically the junior, of course, but the amateur next summer with teachers and homemakers and doctors and folks that are still good enough to be in front of a symphony, you know, and then what I would call the big Cliburn, you know, after that. But the junior, these young kids are amazing. Their intensity and just how happy they are to be here.
That optimism, which is hard to keep as you age, but we hope they do.
It doesn't look like there's any pressure on them.
No. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. It's interesting you're talking about the differences between our competition products, as it were, because Rachel asked what she thought was a perfectly innocent question off camera just a couple ago. What is my favorite among the competitions we do? And it's really hard to say because they all have such different feels to them. This one is all about that. You are not alone as a young pianist. We want you to know that there are others in the world like you. And then the amateur, as you say, you've never been to one of those, have you?
No, I haven't.
What Jeff says is so true because everybody has a story, you know? That's a little more interesting because everybody has lived a life. They've had a path to music and then a path away from music and then a path back to music, and so that's so interesting. You know, and the first time we did the amateur competition back in 1999, I think it was.
That's right.
Wow,
That's right.
20 years ago.
Right.
There were about 100 contestants in it. We didn't really screen, so we took everybody, and that was interesting because sometimes you would have somebody come in and play the last move in the barbicide. It was fantastic, and then the next person was a little bit less than fantastic. You know, so that kind of kept it interesting.
Yeah.
And now we've sort of established a baseline on the amateurs, so it feels more like a competition in a way. And then we have the big one that you were in 2017. What does it feel like to be back here hosting when you know exactly what those kids are going through?
Well, I'm just so impressed. Like you were saying, it's like they're just here to have fun, and there is no pressure because they're so dedicated. And like we heard from Josephine, you know, they're supporting each other so beautifully. They're rooting each other on, watching from the audience. I can't say in that, you know, the big competition we were doing that we were kind of just frantic in our heads with all the repertoire we have to do. But I think this is such a beautiful thing, and you know, the short, intense time that you get to spend together really can last a lifetime. You know, it really bonds you together. So I think it's really beautiful.
You know, another thing that I think the Cliburn does really, really well and always has is establish those relationships between competitors and hosts, competitors and host families, and then, you know, we've had so many competition winners and competition medalists make their homes in Fort Worth.
And I love what
years.
you were saying yesterday, that, you know, it's a Cliburn family. And I think that's so unique and so special. I mean, I can't think of another competition that I've been to where it was so inviting and warming, and you have such wonderful staff and such wonderful hosts, and that, you know, people make the difference.
Volunteers.
Yeah,
The volunteers are the soul of the whole thing.
We really think so. Volunteerism in this part of the country actually is such a phenomenon. Really, there needs to be a documentary about it someday, because we could not produce Cliburn competitions without it.